5 minutes past 8. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We're continuing our focus today on deliberations going on in the National Conference. You know, there's a stalemate about the Committee on Devolution of Powers report. We're joined now by Mr. Chris Akiri. He's a legal practitioner and also chairman editorial board of National Daily Newspapers. Morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, the National Conference now have gotten to that point where there are daggers drawn, they're dogging several groups, but even as the committee, they call them wise men, came up with their recommendations, they wouldn't be pacified, the rest of them. Yes. So we're hoping that today they get back on it and see if they can agree on anything. But you might have seen some of their reports and recommendations and how they disagree, maybe not agreeing yet. What do you think of what's going on so far?
What is going on so far? I think it was foretold before they started that this was likely to be the outcome of the meeting. You know, the meeting was going to be characterized by dissensions, by fruitless arguments, because of the disparate nature of the delegates and where they come from. So some of us are not surprised that the thing is going this way.
Yeah, but it appeared that after a while, after the initial teething problems they had, it appeared as though they were smooth sailing until they got to this point.
But it now dawns on everybody that, so all those things that we discussed and for which we voted during the proceedings are now actually going to constitute a report which will be sent to wherever or be subjected to a plebiscite or whatever. No, it shouldn't be. I mean, from time to time, their constituents continue to advise them either for or against some of the decisions already reached. You see, so they now say, this one is going to favor that part more than us. Are you subscribing to this? So this is the time for them to sit down and take a careful look at whatever they've discussed. And I will not be surprised if this argument is not going to go much beyond this, because it must go beyond this. Now they are the final stage now when a report will be made for submission either to the National Assembly, whatever, or to a plebiscite or referendum, if you like. And this is the time when the constituents of the conferees will now begin to take a careful look at some of the recommendations, that will be in this report.
But you say it must go beyond this.
Yes.
But they've agreed on themselves that, look, it has to be 70% consensus.
Yes.
And so if they can't agree, status quo remains.
You see, 70% consensus actually means nothing, because, you see, from the beginning, I have never subscribed to the 20% consensus thing. Why? 70% or 75%, as you originally proposed. Because all over the world, and particularly in our country, you want to change anything, you want to adopt anything, you want to alter anything, you want to review anything. As far as our Constitution is concerned, it is two-thirds, not three-quarters. You see, so for you to look for almost three-quarters consensus, you are saying that so many decisions will not be adopted. That's what they're saying. And the majority of the people there coming from particular areas will always say, okay, we have the numbers, we are going to vote against it, and they will vote against it.
Perhaps they proved us wrong, because, I mean, so far so good. Almost everything has sailed.
Yes, but I told you now that this is the point, the critical period, when they take a careful look at what they've been doing. And then the constituents now come in to say, come, what did you decide on the other day? You took this decision, you think it's going to affect us positively? I mean, it is going to be better for the other group or the other areas, not us. So before you allow this thing to go into the final report, then you have to take a more careful look at it. And they are now taking a more careful look at all the recommendations in the proceedings. And this is the time for argument. This is the time for disagreements, like we are seeing now.
So it's, sorry, Chamberlain,
Yes.
so you say it's not new what we're saying.
Yes.
It is expected that we're likely to see them even argue further on this particular
Yes,
matter.
yes.
But the pattern of voting is another issue we tried to look at in our discussions yesterday on the program. And how would you love them to sort all of this out? Because would you want to see it go voice vote, or people should cast their ballot on issues so that we can then say, well, we're clear on any matter raised from the conference?
Yes, okay. Now, there are so many beautiful issues they've discussed. They have talked about almost everything one would love to talk about. The structure of this country, for example, this question of devolution of powers and all of these, they've talked about all these. Revenue allocation, the derivation or whatever, is it 13%, 21% or 25%? All of these things they've been talking about, beautiful. So how have they been voting for these things all along? It is not 75 or 70% consensus. It's been by voice vote. Those people, the A's like these, they would raise up their hand. The nays, they would raise up their, shout it out, nay, A, and so on. And then decisions were taken without regard to whether it is 70% or 75% consensus. But now they want to bring in this question of percentage something, 70%, 75%, different from what they've been doing. And that's the problem. They are now at the final stage and they want to bring in percentage vote, 70% or 75%.
That's natural, because, right now we're talking about money.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, we're talking about the money, then we
Yes.
really need to know how many people are speaking for or against. So far, so good. There's been no objections. Yes, it's been a voice vote and oftentimes consensus. So you get the very loud ayes or
Yes.
nays.
Yes.
And then if anybody had been aggrieved over that, nobody had complained as to whether or not, no, the nays had it this time around or the ayes had let us go to a vote. It's generally been accepted. So they've
Yes.
gone on with it since there have been no complaints.
Yes.
But in this particular matter, it would
Yes.
seem that even to reach, items to vote upon,
Yes.
it's been very difficult. So right now, what we have is a proposition of, between 21 to 50%, which has now changed to nothing less than 18%,
Yes.
to be reviewed every 10 years.
Yes.
Now, if that is the case, we just heard what we did here was the chairman of the Wise Committee, of the Wise Men Committee, presenting that. And even as he was presenting it, there have been dissensions already.
Yes. Yes.
So it would seem that even to agree on what to vote upon in this particular matter has
Yes.
been dicey. What do you have to say about the decisions, some of the decisions that have been reached by this Wise Men Committee?
You see, take a look at this revenue allocation thing, problem. Now, Section 162 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, talks of, subsection 1 talks about 13%. At least, it says at least 13%. And that is in view of Section 313 of the same Constitution, which says that, look, we're giving you this 13% as an interim measure until the National Assembly settles down to review it upwards, that is. This thing happened, that's over 15 years ago. The Constitution started May 29, 1999. And you cannot say that the National Assembly has not settled down to review this thing. So it has been on. What are we talking about? The Niger Delta is a degraded area. There is ecological degradation. You can't, like somebody was saying this morning, I think, you can't plant anything because the entire land is desiccated. How is it desiccated? Everywhere you see gas flaring, and it goes up and it dries up the area within a radius of 24 kilometers. You can't plant anything. The rivers are, devastated because there is a blanket of oil on all the rivers, so there is no fishing. In other words, there is no farming, there is no fishing, and Several other things you cannot do. So the people are in penury. They live in penury. And so we are now saying 13% is not it takes if it took about 10 million naira to construct 1 kilometer road in, say, Kano State or even Oyo State, dry areas, it will take over 100 million to construct that type of road in the South-South. So what are we talking about? 13% means nothing. And people should be reasonable in order to avoid problems in this country.